Let's talk about a single substance that kills more people every single year than terrorism, wars, homicides, and car accidents combined. Now, if this thing didn't exist and someone tried to invent it today, no way it would ever be legal. And yet over 2 billion of us drink it. We toast with it, we unwind with it, we connect over it. This, right here, is the great paradox of alcohol.
So, on one side of the coin, you have the perfect social lubricant, right? The key that has unlocked human connection for literally thousands of years. But then you flip that coin over and you find what is, by a lot of measures, the most harmful drug on the entire planet. So what gives? Why do we cling so tightly to the very thing that causes so much destruction?
To really get to the bottom of this contradiction, we've got to start with its appeal. I mean, what is it about that first drink that feels so good? And what even is this stuff we're drinking?
You might find this hard to believe, but this amazing social tool, it actually starts its life as a biological weapon. Seriously. Yeast produces alcohol to kill off any other microbes in its environment. So when you take a sip of beer or wine, you're literally drinking a substance that was designed from day one to be toxic. And the moment it hits your brain, the chaos starts. First, it kind of sedates your neurons, which is why that tension and stress just seems to melt away. Next, it stuns your prefrontal cortex. That's your self-control center, making you a little more, well, uninhibited. And for the grand finale, it releases endorphins. You know, those same feel-good molecules we get from laughing with our friends. And this quote just nails the result of that chemical cocktail. The world suddenly feels lighter, conversations just flow, smiles come a little easier, and suddenly strangers can feel like old friends. For a little while, it feels like the weight of being human isn't something you have to carry all by yourself. But, and you knew there was a but coming, that temporary relief comes at a really steep long-term price. As that occasional drink turns into a regular habit, the slow, quiet damage starts to build up inside your body. And here's the real kicker. It's not just the alcohol molecule itself that does the damage. When your body tries to break it down, it creates a chemical called acetaldehyde. And get this stuff is even more toxic than the alcohol itself. It just attacks pretty much every cell and tissue it comes into contact with. In your brain, this toxic assault literally causes it to wither. I mean, it actually shrinks your neurons, it severs their connections, and it makes it way harder for different parts of your brain to talk to each other. So what does that feel like? Well, your memories start to fade, your thinking slows down, and your risk for dementia goes way up. And this danger is just magnified for younger people because the human brain isn't even fully baked until our mid-20s. So drinking heavily before then is kind of like smashing wet cement before it has a chance to set. It can cause lasting structural damage. In fact, studies have found that blackout drinking in young adults can actually trigger mental health issues for up to a whole year. The damage is just so widespread. Let's start with cancer. Alcohol is linked to 8 different types, causing around 740,000 new cases every year across the globe. And we're not just talking about heavy drinkers here. The risk starts to creep up with an average of less than 1 glass of wine per day. Then there's your liver, right? Your body's main detox center. It works overtime to process the alcohol, fat builds up, inflammation kicks in, and eventually the organ just starts to fail. The really scary part is this process often has 0 symptoms until it's way too late, leading to 600,000 deaths every year. And finally, your heart. Regular drinking weakens the heart muscle, jacks up your blood pressure, and increases the risk of a stroke. All told, it chips in another 500,000 deaths annually just from cardiovascular disease. Okay, but here's what makes alcohol's harm so unique among drugs. Its destruction doesn't just stop with the person drinking. It spills out, causing an absolutely staggering amount of damage to all the people around them. Every year, 500,000 people are killed in accidents fueled by alcohol. We're talking falls, drownings, crashes, you name it. And for car accidents specifically, more than half of the people who die aren't even the ones who were drinking. They just had the terrible luck of crossing paths with someone who was. Alcohol is also a huge driver of violence. From bar fights to domestic abuse, even murder, the numbers are just grim. About half of all violent crimes and sexual assaults are committed by offenders who are drunk. And perhaps the most innocent victims of all are the 600,000 babies born every single year with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, a devastating, lifelong condition that's caused by drinking during pregnancy. So when you add all of that up, Tens of millions of people are physically harmed by someone else's drinking every single year. This is the vast, heartbreaking collateral damage of alcohol. And all of this leads us to the final toll, the hijacking of 400 million lives. That's 1 in every 14 adults on this planet living with alcoholism. And it's not always the stereotype you might be picturing. One study found that up to half of all alcoholics could be considered high-functioning. Successful professionals, young adults, people who meet all their obligations while quietly drinking dangerous amounts. But after thousands of years of this unspoken pact, something's changing, and it's changing fast. Younger generations? Well, they're starting to rewrite our entire relationship with alcohol. Younger generations, and especially Gen Z, are just drinking way less than their parents did. Here in the US, binge drinking among adolescents has plummeted by a full 50%. That is a massive win for public health. But at the very same time, this really curious correlation has popped up. Just as youth drinking has fallen off a cliff, so has the number of young people who see their friends almost every day. Party attendance is down. Dating is down. Now, look, there are a lot of reasons for this, for sure, but it does raise an interesting question about the role alcohol used to play. This quote just perfectly sums up that ancient trade-off, doesn't it? For millennia, we've basically given alcohol our health and years of our lives. And in return, it offered us a shortcut, a kind of effortless solution to the awkward, messy business of human connection. It gave us confidence, connection, and celebration. And that leads us to our final thought. As a society, it really seems like we're starting to move away from this poisonous chemical crutch. It's a change that's going to save countless lives, no question. But it leaves us with this really profound question for the future. If we finally give up our oldest social crutch, what will we choose to lean on next?